Hello everyone, in this video I'll be translating and summarizing the latest Urdu broadcast by Shahbaz Gill to make it accessible for our English-speaking audience. Let's go through the key developments and insights in Shahbaz Gill's words. In today's most important news, first, we will talk about the presidential seat and the candidates for it. Right now, there are 3 or even more people vying for it. President Zardari is currently sitting on it, and Nawaz Sharif also has aspirations, or perhaps the aspirations lie within the hearts of the PMLN to place someone else on that seat. This is because the PMLN does not want Field Marshal Sahib to sit on it. All of their members are on Form 47, and they cannot stop the voting because if an amendment, like the 27th Amendment, passes, even PMLN's own members know that they have all won on Form 47, so they will not be stopped, even if the PMLN tries to block it. Field Marshal Sahib wants to become the president. Today, he has taken some action toward this, which we will talk about, and what Shahbaz Sharif wants in this context. We'll discuss that as well. But first, let's look at the statement by Khawaja Asif today. Khawaja Asif has now clearly expressed in words the PMLN's resentment or desire, or perhaps their initial hesitations, about Field Marshal Sahib becoming the president. He has openly stated today in the media that he does not believe that President Zardari should be replaced or that it should even happen. The more important point is that he says Zardari should not be replaced. He is fully satisfied with President Zardari's performance. Yes, you heard it right. Khawaja Asif says that he is fully satisfied with President Zardari's performance and that Zardari should remain the president and should not be replaced. Now, whether he is being replaced or not, you know that in Islamabad, there is so much gossip about this that almost all major journalists have now even confirmed this news and provided analysis on it. So this change, or Field Marshal Sahib's movement toward the presidential seat, no longer leaves any doubt. If any plan fails or a new one emerges, we cannot predict. But as of today, Field Marshal Sahib and his associated journalists are determined to take the presidential seat by any means. Earlier, I mentioned that President Zardari would not want to give up the seat. However, it depends on the deal made with him. If the deal is that he can stay in power a bit longer, they will extend the parliament. And if parliament is extended for a longer period, they may make his son the prime minister during the next term. If some guarantees are obtained from the UAE or elsewhere, President Zardari might easily step down from the presidential seat. This is an analysis and we could be wrong. Now, let's talk about Shahbaz Sharif. For Shahbaz Sharif, it would be ideal if Field Marshal Sahib becomes the presidential candidate and wins, becoming the head of state. You might ask how, since he is the Prime Minister right now. Well, he knows that he's just a figurehead, he's not the real boss. He knows that he's on Form 47, but his greatest fear is from his brother and niece. He knows that while Maryam Nawaz may not have the same polishing ability as Shahbaz Sharif, she still has a significant amount of it, and her other qualities make her stand out more than Shahbaz Sharif. Shahbaz Sharif knows that while Maryam Nawaz might not polish as well as him, she could be much more effective in other areas. She could be more popular in other fields and gain more leverage. This would make her a more attractive candidate for the PMLN, particularly if Field Marshal Sahib is on top and Shahbaz Sharif has to settle for a lesser role. For example, there's the generation gap. Maryam Nawaz probably understands technology better than Shahbaz Sharif. Her hold on the party is also stronger than his. This makes her a more attractive choice than Shahbaz Sharif, particularly as a figurehead prime minister if Field Marshal Sahib is president. Shahbaz Sharif's issue is that if Field Marshal Sahib becomes president and agrees to keep him as a figurehead, then Shahbaz Sharif, who has already been working in a figurehead role, would hope to solidify his position. He might position himself as a candidate for Prime Minister, one that could be acceptable to both parties, especially if the PMLN and PPP are both comfortable with him. Shahbaz Sharif has always worked to keep the PPP on his side, while trying to keep his relationship with his brother and niece from becoming too strained. Now, let's hear Khawaja Asif's statement today. He says something important, which will give us further clarity on the situation. Listen carefully to his words, and then we'll move to the next topic. Khawaja Asif said there was some buzz about removing the president and bringing in someone else, but I have full confidence in President Zardari. There is no such move to remove him. The names are not even being discussed. I'm fully in favor of President Zardari continuing. It is now clear that within the PMLN there is some hope that either Zardari stays or someone else becomes president, but under no circumstances should Field Marshal Sahib take that position. On the other hand, today, Field Marshal Sahib visited the National Defence University. Going to NDU is of course a military move because it is primarily for military personnel and civilians who are trained in international relations and other relevant areas. Field Marshal Sahib's speech there was purely political. He talked about the future of war, saying that wars are not just fought on social media or through narratives. Real preparation is needed. He was speaking from India's perspective, but we were left wondering, if social media and narratives are not enough, then what is all this happening with generals and their staff constantly attending different schools, institutions and seminars? Field Marshal Sahib himself says the military should focus on military preparation, but the activity we are seeing is mostly politically oriented. His statements about the changing nature of warfare also seem more like a way to push his political agenda, positioning himself as a leader in a broader context. His statements about the military's professional focus are somewhat at odds with his actions. Moreover, the DG-ISPR has a role in managing statements about the military. We have already informed you that after the first tweet from ISPR, we can expect more regular tweets and comments from the ISPR, and this trend will continue. So, it seems that the DG-ISPR will regularly speak on behalf of the Army Chief to make him appear more like the head of state. This is typical for such positions. Finally, let's address an old video of Nawaz Sharif. When you see it, don't take it seriously. You might see a clip where he says something like, "The Army Chief is like a super prime minister." But remember, this video is very old. Nawaz Sharif's views have changed significantly. Now he sees the hybrid system as ideal, where the Army and the PMLN work together. This hybrid system, he believes, should have been in place since 1990, but it's only now happening. The system we're running now is the best possible one. He says this hybrid system is the most efficient and ideal. Let's move on to the next news, which has been provided by Junaid Salim, a senior journalist whom we highly respect. He mentioned that powerful circles are strongly upset with Khawaja Asif and Rana Sanaullah. The reason, he explained, is due to the recent comments made by Khawaja Asif and Rana Sanaullah. For example, Khawaja Asif's contradictory statements and Rana Sanaullah's recent praise for Imran Khan, saying that he served his time in prison well, that he is courageous, and that he doesn't consume drugs, which had been a part of the propaganda against him, are reasons behind this displeasure. Now, while we can't independently confirm these claims, the recent pattern of statements, where Khawaja Asif is expressing his preference for President Zardari to remain the head of state, aligns with what we are hearing. You might have noticed that PMLN is moving away from the idea of letting Asif Munir become head of state in any form. So, in a way, we can say this news is somewhat confirmed, considering that the positions of the parties involved are not aligned with those of the establishment at this moment. We will see what unfolds in the coming days. On the other hand, do you remember the news that Nawaz Sharif wanted to meet Kamran Shahid in jail? Kamran Shahid has now clarified that he was not the one who provided this news. It was from the V News channel. However, Kamran Shahid made a mistake. As seasoned journalists like him, you know that when a journalist reports something, it's understood that it's based on their sources. But Kamran Shahid should have stated that the report came from another journalist, not as if it was his own information. This way, if the news turned out to be false, he wouldn't be held responsible. Instead, he should have said that the news came from a certain journalist, not from his own sources. But after this incident, everyone distanced themselves from the story, including Khawaja Asif and others, who later explained that they did not plan on meeting Imran Khan. Even if they had, Imran Khan wouldn't have agreed to meet with them because, let's face it, he doesn't have any real authority to decide anything right now. He's struggling to make decisions like how many pakoras should go into a pot at Raywind. But now, the PMLN is collectively clarifying the issue. Now, moving on to a national interest-related issue, Captain Iman Durrani recently stated that she wasn't saying that the Pakistani military does everything perfectly, but whatever they do it in the national interest. And as for national interest, something interesting happened today. The Pakistan Sports Board has dismissed Alamgir Sheikh from his position, and Major General Irfan Arshad has been appointed as a member of the board. The announcement was made today. Now, being a member of the Pakistan Sports Board might seem like a small position, but it is significant because when someone is made a member, they are often seen as potential future heads of the organization, and they could eventually be promoted to the chairman position. In other words, Major General Irfan Arshad may soon become the head of the Pakistan Sports Board. So it seems like we are heading toward a completely military-run system with only a few remaining institutions that haven't yet been handed over to the generals. In another related development, the feud between Elon Musk and President Trump is deepening. Musk had earlier announced that he would form a political party in the United States if President Trump passed the big and beautiful bill, which would impact electric vehicles like those made by Tesla. This bill was recently passed, but many of the provisions that favored electric vehicles were removed. Now the situation is escalating, and Musk has announced that he has indeed formed a third political party in the United States. However, he made an interesting statement, saying that this party wouldn't contest the presidential election, but would focus on a few Senate and congressional seats instead. Musk is currently the third richest person in the world, and even if he doesn't win these seats himself, his influence could severely weaken the Republican Party. This would create a major obstacle for President Trump, whose party just barely passed the bill in the Senate with the help of Vice President's casting vote. If Musk succeeds in influencing a few senators, President Trump's next 2 years in office could be incredibly difficult. He would face tremendous difficulty in passing any laws. This Musk wants to achieve as a way to challenge Trump, given the ongoing feud between them. That wraps up our translation of Shahbaz Gill's video. I hope this English version helped you understand his message better. Please like, share and subscribe to Awami Lens to help our community grow. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of this effort.